Hi, my name is Tiffany. Welcome to Present for Myself. I'm so glad to be back with you all, and I hope you have been well. Listen, why can't you get over it? Why is it that you just keep falling back into certain patterns of behavior or habits? Or why is it that you still feel that hurt, that pain, that angst, that anger from the situation that took place, from the person that you experienced, the institution that you finally thought you had broken free from? Why is it that you just can't seem to get over it? Why do we struggle? Why do we struggle when it comes to healing, moving forward, evolving sometimes? I have some ideas about that. Number one, healing is not linear. It is not in a straight line. It's not from point A to point B. Sometimes it's from point A and then you go all the way to Z and come back and then you're at Q and R and L, M, N, O, P. And the next thing you know, you find yourself possibly even back at square one. It's just like stages of grief. There used to be a time we thought there were 5 stages of grief. And, you began with one stage and you ended with the other. And then upon further reflection and research, we realized that everybody doesn't go through all the various stages of grief. Some people go through 3 of them. Some people might go from one to the very end. Others might go in different orders. So nothing is absolute and it's not linear. Another reason that you might not be healing according to what you think you are or getting over something is that it's not just about being strong and having willpower. There are certain conditions and phases of life that we find ourselves in, and it has very little to do with willpower and strength, and it has to do with reconditioning and reapproaching certain patterns. And that has to do with the mind and the brain, if you will, the actual brain itself. Some of us have been conditioned since childhood to be a certain way. I think about codependency often, and I talk about that because that's something that I've had to overcome. Some people don't think you ever overcome it. For a long time, I called myself a recovering codependent. And in some ways, I might still be, because I do find sometimes left unchecked, I might fall back into some of those ways. But scientists have discovered that in the mind of the codependent, in the prefrontal cortex, in the brain of the codependent, there's actually some deficiencies and there's some things that need to take place so that we can actually rewire the brain in order to get into new patterns. So there is healing. There is the ability to move past or to go through or to rearrange or to get away from certain behaviors, but you have to be intentional about that. You have to know it's not just my willpower. I'm not just some weak, undone person who always end up in relationships that are toxic for me, who always attract certain types of individuals. No, it means that I have to put some things into perspective and I've got to rewire my brain. And how do we get to the place where we can wire again what was wired from its inception for us, oftentimes by people who were caregivers who were abusive towards us, or maybe a particular relationship that just kind of took us out of what we were supposed to be? How do we get there? Well, we do differently. We do differently from what we were taught in the first place. We find help through therapy. We find help through workshops, classes, books, spiritual practices. There's ways that we can get to a place where we relearn some of the things that got us here in the first place. Some of us, it's going back to something that was good that we once knew. And unfortunately, for some of us, we never knew it from the beginning. Groomed from the very beginning to fawn and to people please, groomed from the very beginning to not trust certain people or types of authority, groomed from the very beginning to want to control every aspect to the point where it's almost sickening and maddening, because we know that without that control, somehow we're going to invite some sort of abuse. So it's about rewiring and remapping the brain in areas, especially those addictive areas. There are many things that we need to be healed from or to get over that have very little to do. It doesn't mean that there's no willpower involved. Sometimes you're going to have to sit with what's uncomfortable to get past certain things. Whatever your behavior, whatever the thing you need to move past and get healing from, begin looking at changing that pattern. It's not just about praying it away all the time. It's not just about punishing yourself until you get it right. It's about relearning. Another reason that you might not be getting over it or healing or moving past the thing that seems to keep you in a bind is because you're trying to heal the wrong child. What do I mean by that? Oftentimes we get in a place as parents where we have children and we want to give them what we didn't have. We want to make sure they don't suffer the way that we did with certain things. And in doing that, we forget that they're their own person with their own feelings and their own brain and their own mind and their own experiences. And they have you as a parent, or they have you as a caregiver. They have you as a person who's an authority in their life, watching after them, and not necessarily how you came up. And that manifests in that we have these little mini me's. And, I get it. We call our children mini me. We think it's cute. Oh, they look like you. They have a certain behavior. Oh, his father does that. His mom does that. And I get that. But I'm not, fond of that term, because some people take it way too far. They are not you. They may look like you, they may walk like you, talk like you, have some of the same proclivities, they may have some of the same habits, some of the same facial expressions, but at the end of the day, they're their own person. And you have to respect that you are put here to guide your child, to rear them and to bring them up, and then to release them into the world, knowing and hoping that you have done the very best that you can. So here's the thing. In parenting the wrong child, we often find ourselves giving our child stuff that we didn't have, and they don't even want it. And then we resent them for not wanting it. You didn't get to play baseball because your parents couldn't afford it, or they kept you working instead of allowing you to do after school activities or curriculars, or you had to do that because of the situation they were in. You didn't get to go to a particular camp or school, or wear certain types of clothes, or, have certain experiences because of however your situation was set up as a child. And now you're going to make sure your child gets it. Well, what if your child doesn't want to go to that school? What if your child doesn't want to be an engineer? What if they want to be a singer? What if they're not called necessarily down the path of doing a certain thing that you felt like you were neglected or dejected or rejected in that area, and you couldn't do it? And now you're trying to make them know it in a way that you wanted to know it, but it's not what they're supposed to do. It's not what they've been built for. It's not their path. I get it. Logically speaking, we are supposed to give our children things that make them want to go after a calling and a vocation. You always want your child to have a plan A and B. So I get all of that. But we can't force what we didn't have on our child. Parent your own inner child. Your inner child and your child are two different people. Your inner child is the person who you were at a certain age, and that inner child within you can manifest in various ways. You have an inner child who's 5, you have one who's 12, you have one who's 17. For myself, when I'm going through certain things, or I'm triggered, because I know that I'm responsible for my own triggers. When I'm triggered about something, I always ask myself, who is that speaking up right now? Who is it that's nervous? Who is it that's afraid? Who is it that doesn't feel like they're worthy? Oh, that's that 17-year-old version of myself letting me know that there's something that needs to be addressed. Oh, that's the 5-year-old version of myself who went through this particular traumatic event, and as a result seems to always pipe up when this happens. And so what do you do? What do you give to your inner child that they didn't get? You experience those things. You immerse yourself. There is a place of healing for the inner child when you see your child happy and filled with joy, and you see your child warm and safe and confident, and you're giving them the things that you didn't have. That's therapeutic. That can feel healing. But at the end of the day, when that child says to you, I'm not going through the trauma that I didn't experience the same traumatic events as you. You've been taking care of me. I don't want what you didn't have. I want my own. Now, some kids, they're like, yeah, I want that. Yeah, that's great. Awesome. I want the thing that you didn't have. But they don't want it from a place of having unresolved trauma and hurt and pain. They just want it because they want it, and they like it because maybe they have some of your characteristics and traits. But you can't force what you didn't have on your child. Instead, turn that energy into making moments for yourself. If you didn't get to play baseball as a child, find an adult baseball league. If you didn't get to run track as a child, find an adult track league. If you didn't get to be an artist, you know where I'm going with this. There are some things that we can still give ourselves, even as adults, that we didn't have as children, and cause that child in us to say, thank you. You're responsible for your inner child. You're responsible to parent your child too, but don't get them mixed up. They're not the same person. They're not the same person. And you're going to continue to feel empty. You're going to continue to not feel the effects and the benefits and the evolutionary beauty of growth and development until you pinpoint which child needs what. Another reason that you may be struggling to heal is because time does not, in fact, heal all pain. Let me tell you what heals pain. Work. immersing yourself in the work, doing the work, therapy, again, spiritual practices, resetting patterns. But time in and of itself does not heal all pain. Yes, time and distance from a thing can dull it, can make it not so painful in the moment, but you can't just heal it with only time. Even wounds need to be dressed. They need to be undressed and dressed again and cleansed. You can't just say, oh, just give it time and it's going to heal. Another reason that you might not be healing is because you're going to the wrong people for the help that you need. When you have a toothache, go to the dentist. Don't go to the podiatrist. When you have a spiritual issue, then maybe that's the time to go and see your preacher or your imam or your rabbi or whomever. But when you have an issue when it comes to mental health, then you are going to want to go see a therapist or a counselor or someone in that field. When you have a medical issue, then you need to go to the right type of person, the right type of doctor for what ails you. I was raised thinking that all you had to do was bring it to the altar and all could be well. And I have literally seen and known of people who have lost their lives because they put all their stock in just the spiritual community. I make no apologies for saying that. You better go and get the kind of help that you need. I don't want to offend anyone who believes a certain way or is walking a particular path. I'm only speaking from my experience. At the end of the day, you're an autonomous human being and you can do what you want to do with regard to yourself, your own person. But I'm just saying to you, based upon my experience, based upon what I have both seen and heard with my own eyes and my own ears and what I have lived for myself, get the kind of help you need. It is not disrespectful to one community if they don't have what you need to go seek that out from someone else so that you can live, so that you can thrive, and so that you can fulfill whatever it is that you were placed here to do. Take control over yourself, take control over your life, and get the right kind of help. Another reason that you might not be getting help is because perhaps you're comparing your journey to somebody else's. Now, this is kind of difficult for some people because they were raised in a state of always being compared to someone else. If you were raised perhaps by a narcissistic parent, then there was a lot of triangulation where they were always pitting you against one another. So a lot of times when you meet someone who's very competitive, somebody who's always comparing themselves against somebody else, they had to struggle in their lives to earn any type of love or acceptance by competing against other people, even in the household, in the family. A person who is narcissistic will triangulate you against anybody. So, and I'm not excusing competitive people or people who are always comparing and possibly even jealous. What I'm saying is sometimes that can be the root of it. And if you were raised by someone who's always triangulating you and making you feel like, you know, you had to compete against someone else or compare yourself to someone else, well, your brother did it, why can't you? Well, your sister does it, why can't you? Well, your cousin does it, why can't you? Then you'll look around and you'll see people and you'll say, my friend such and such got past this much quicker than I did, so something must be wrong with me. Look, they're not you. They don't have your life. They don't know your situation. I had a situation once when I used to be over this musical group, and this girl came to me and she was crying and she said, she told me about how she had been physically abused a few days earlier by her spouse. But I said, why didn't you come earlier? I just wanted so much to be able to have helped her earlier. And she said to me, because I looked around and I saw everyone else seemed to be, you know, so perfect and they seem to have such good relationships. And from that day forward, I was like, I will not be making any other couple's relationship goals because, honey, you don't know what other people are dealing with and what they're going through. Now, I give you that as an extreme example. You know, we were able to eventually get her the help and she got out of that situation. But I give you that as an extreme example of what takes place when you're looking at how other people got it done. How, you know, well, she lost the weight and he seemed to get past his divorce quicker than I am, or, you know, they seem to have gotten past this particular trauma. And then there's people in your life sometimes that will be like, well, what's wrong with you? I got past it. I did this. I did that. Stop comparing your journey to other people's. Yes, you can admire someone. Yes, you can take advice from people who have made it through. But at the end of the day, honor who you are as an individual as well. Your journey is different from theirs. Your journey is different. So don't be hard on yourself if it's taking you a little longer to move through that grief, to get over that hump, to go through that experience or that challenge. Just celebrate the fact that you're doing it. Another reason that you might not be healing is because you don't want to do what is uncomfortable. I was in a car accident around 97 and I broke many of the ribs on my left side of my body. I also broke the L4 in my spine. I was hospitalized. It was one of the most pivotal times of my life. And the doctor said, wow, he said, there are football players and boxers who struggle with broken ribs. So don't be hard on yourself if the pain and the struggle, he said, it's going to be something that you're going to have to really work through. And I could literally feel them separating sometimes, but I still, had to heal, and I had to sit up a certain way, and it wasn't comfortable. But in order to have those ribs heal the way they needed to, I had to sit in ways that weren't comfortable. I had to lay down in the bed in ways that weren't comfortable. I had to go through rehabilitation. I had to use a walker because I had to kind of like be retrained to walk and stuff. It was really a situation where I could have lost my life. It was not comfortable to go through the healing process, but I had to make it through to the other side. Sometimes you're going to have to take medicine that is not good in order for you to heal. I talk in my video called Regrets. I talk about being an herbalist and how when I learned about bitter herbs, those are the herbs that you ingest and they go in and they take care of parasites and stuff in your body. They're called anthelmintics. And I talked about how it's not going to taste good. It's not going to feel good sometimes. Going through and doing work on that dark part of yourself, going into therapy, crying and just feeling all your feelings again, getting through the pain, the process. And a lot of us don't want to be uncomfortable. We don't want to sit with the loneliness that comes after walking away from a toxic relationship. We don't want to be the odd man out because, hey, at least we had family at that time during the holidays. But you forget all the toxicity you also had to go through. So we don't want to sit by ourselves, so we go and we subject ourselves to things just so we can say, I was with family, or I was with my love, or my boyfriend, or my girlfriend, or I was with my friend group, when you know good and well the pain and the struggle that it is just to even be in those environments. I'm not saying that every type of healing is going to have you curled up in the fetal position on the floor and unable to barely make it. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that some things will require that you not be comfortable. The last thing I want to say about why you may not be healing or getting over it is that you might be healing and you just don't know it. Healing does not always look pretty. Healing can come with parts of yourself that have been buried, coming back and presenting and saying, this is the true you. This is your authentic self. And accepting your authentic self. You think that your version of healed is supposed to look like someone else's version of healed. And for you, healing might be that you confront people more. Healing might be that you have an attitude of, oh, don't bring that over here. Healing might be for you that you get to a place where anybody can get it. And I say that from a space of not trying to provoke or compel you to do things that are outside of your character or morally something that you don't want to do. But I'm saying that healing for you might be that you have to be more confrontational. Healing for someone else might mean they confront a little less. Healing for you might be tampering down some of that empathy, that compassionate empathy that has made it possibly so easy for others to take advantage of you at times. If you want to know about that, I have a video called Weaponized Empathy that might help you to learn when your empathy is actually hurting you rather than helping you. Sometimes your healing doesn't look like what you think. It doesn't look all beautiful and pastel and watercolory. I want what's best for you. I want what's best for me. That's why this channel is called Present for Myself. I hope that as I continue to endeavor to be present for myself, that you'll do the same and be present for yourself.